Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, live show number 533. I am your host, Lauren Gray. Thank you so much for joining us. What can I say? It's October. We should be about wrapped up with our budgets. Any lingering things with budgets usually come out of conflicts or late updates given new information kind of thing. But for the most part, they're pretty much in front of the people that will give the okie dokie or the we'll deal with it as we can. The answer is who's to say, but we are finally getting a little bit past that. Being looking in the United States right now, Southwest Florida to be exact. When I speak domestically, I speak of the United States. I say this because we are in 209 countries. We do get broadcast around the world. We do get watched in very unique time zones when we're live. And of course, we do the replays at 11:30 a.m. Wednesday mornings for Sydney, Australian time and London time for our APAC friends, European and Mideast friends, respectively. So I always have to keep in context. I get told by that an email. It's wonderful. Sometimes we don't know what you're referring to until we listen long enough to understand that, oh, wait a minute, that's the United States. So I'm putting that up front this time. So being where it is and where it is, you'll see me refer to some things that are going on in the States, but also more importantly, just the exact timetable that we're dealing with certain things. And there's been a lot of very transitional things that happened this past week. And for that reason, our topic this week is kind of US based in kind of in a Paul Revere way, where the folklore of it is that Paul Revere rode when around through some of the smaller towns when the British were invading, one by land, two by sea. And he kept yelling out, the British are coming, as a call of rallying for the Minutemen to assemble. That's a long story for a topic title that's supposed to be fun play on that. So for me, our topic this week is the AI web browsers are coming. The AI web browsers are coming. And why I say it repetitively is because it is one of those points we'll look back in time and say, wow, I kind of remember the before and after that. Not that the world is going to change immediately, not why that it's going to change in the iteration that we're currently seeing them. But the value of why they're coming out now and the subsequent future releases, we're going to cover all of the different types of platforms. I would say all, because there are fractional ones, niche marked ones that are very specific to the mood or the type of things that you're looking for. So they're more almost topic specific browsers in some ways, or at least interest considering bases of discovery form. That even goes to ideas like Wolfram Alpha and so forth. But we will go over the major ones. We'll go over the new AI based browser ones. And we'll go over some of the privacy ones and how they've adapted their AI combinations with them as well. So let's first look at the landscape. Late 1990s, for those old enough to go back to those times, we had the internet was coming into its fledgling self. Dial-up was pretty much the only way to connect, and you had platforms that allowed you to communicate once you got online. Once you were online, you went somewhere, and what you went to was AOL or Yahoo. And at the time, you had to actually know how to get there. And then these browsers came up. Netscape was one. Google was very late. Oh, not very late, but they were one of the latter ones. And what happened is that when websites were being made in the late 1990s, you could go to a local store or a library and you could get and look at a website yellow pages. That's how you found things. You actually looked at the address of something topically and you would type it into your computer on your Netscape or your AOL browser, and it would put you to that website. Then it got to where places like Google were making it so that you could just use it for that function. It wasn't that and other things. Internet Explorer, Microsoft Explorer, and that world of was the other. And then, of course, search engines evolved, and the rest is, so to say, history. But we've been in this world since then. We have browsers, and we've become educated on how to discover stuff in the internet based on what the browsers do to sort out all the information that's on the internet in a way that is useful for us. The reason why Google is such a dominant force is they figured out the early algorithms and continue to develop them and get better on how to understand our intent and what we're looking for and how things are categorized and how it's tracked and how it's looked at and so forth. And for that reason, we've literally grown up with the internet, having to go through the lessons that we learned from the growing process of browsers. We learned about keywords. We learned about our words in a search query, search engine results page, a SERP. And these are acronyms that we live with now. And all of this is about saying, here's my typed query, or even recently the fact that you can talk to it, you can, rather than typing, you can talk, hoping that it understands every word you say. And it would give you a series of results in a ranking order persistent with the most probable to the least probable in a series. That's since been diluted to things like answer boxes and paid positioning above organic, which organic means that your content was indexed to be most relevant to what you were using the search for, but paid positioning was being put in front of all that for money making of the platform. Remember, if you're not paying for something, you are the product. So we've been living in that world. And then along 2 years ago, 2-ish years ago, we got introduced to the idea of AI, this autonomously intelligent perspective of engagement. And it's still in its struggling growth process, and there's a tremendous amount of variations and unknowns and no fences and issues, and you see that in the news every day. But it was, how is this going to be dealt with in search engines? And what we've seen is the search engines have placed it into the normal search engine page. If you're using Chrome, you'll see the Gemini results. Strangely enough, I've seen now where paid ads are going ahead of Gemini because it might be bleeding a little too much business from Google that you just take the Gemini answer and you don't actually traffic the sites that are paying for the platform's existence. So maybe they're teasing that up. And it's always been a question of how they're going to monetize AI, because AI is turning into a much more valuable, useful tool. And that's yet to be seen. There's a lot of theories about it. A lot of this could be this way, this could be that way kind of mentalities. But here we are now. And we see that AI has been inserted into our familiar way of using search pages. We type what we're looking for. It comes up with an AI answer to it. And then there's all the other subsequent things, your answer box, which hopefully is like, we know what you're looking for. Here's our answers to questions related to it, the answer box that we talk about. And then there's the paid section that still pays for everything in the hopes that it gets your attention, that it might be something that you were interested in looking at beyond what you've just been told. And then you have the organic sections below it. And you're slowly not using that as much because most of the best organic sections are already incorporated into Gemini's usage, saving that little bit of time. And that's been our exposure of the interfacing of AI. And we've come across agentics. We've talked about how agents are being built to do specific tasks. In travel, we're talking about that in the sense of having dedicated agents that will put together the pieces of what you do for your travel planning and how that's going to impact us. And that's a whole nother continuing conversation that we have. But now this past week, it's not that they had not been around. It's just that they've not been around in general value. We now have AI-powered browsers. What does this mean? Well, we're seeing variations to how a browser, not just an augmentation of content in a search engine result, but an actual browser based with AI, potentially would be interfaced. Nobody knows how we as a public are going to fully use AI. How do we want to interact with it? We're familiar with AI by having the little chat box in the bottom. I'm typing what I want to know. And we know that a lot of times we have to be very specific about our questions, like asking a genie for $1 million. We have to make sure that we're not getting 1 million frogs or something, where you have to be very specific about what you're asking for to get the best answer to your question. But it is a singularity of an answer. Sometimes you have to perpetuate it and refine it and so forth, but it's trying to give you an answer. And that's been one way of it. That's our main way that we've begun to interface with AI and helping us find things. Make me review this. Here's a link. Summarize it for me. I need to find this information and so forth. And now with the mobile interactions with AI, we've had more of a dialogue relationship. That Google is trying to use Gemini in a personal supportive role. That Microsoft with Copilot is trying to be that, hey, ask me questions. I can work with you, as we go through this process. And we've hit certain milestones where AI is remembering the things we've asked so that it gets better at answering the future questions that are similar to earlier questions. We know those things are happening. And now we have browsers that are AI specific. Let's go through them. So let's start from the top. What we're very familiar with, Chrome, Google's browser. Lots of functionality, so forth. It's integrated with all the Google stuff. They give you free email, so forth and so on. Remember, free, you are the product. Then there's Safari, Apple's version, more secure, or at least that is what they point out to, at least in the sense of containment of data. Heavily used as a mobile browser for all of the technology that Apple has out there. Then you have what used to be the Internet Explorer for Microsoft is now called Edge. And that's for all of your Microsoft-based product. They've had a struggling time to get you to use it more because even though you're on a Windows product, you download Chrome and you use Chrome. That's where your ecosystem of Google exists. If you have Outlook, it uses Edge. And even then, they have to relinquish and say that you can use Chrome if you want to. But anyway, Edge is their platform. And they've incorporated a lot of Copilot and AI functionality within Edge's discovery process. Again, very similar to what Google's done. Here's our more familiar search results with an insertion of AI. And then you have it used to be the renegade of the group, Firefox. It's been out there, it's been there, it's had its issues, it's had its ups and downs, it's had its popularity surge. It doesn't seem as being as popular as it once was in comparison to Chrome and Safari and Internet Explorer. But there's loyalists to that as well. So that's the big three-ish. When I say ish, it's because of Firefox 4-ish. Browsers that we're most intimately familiar with. There have been always other browsers, but they just never have reached a mainstream conscious awareness to most people. They're usually privacy-based browsers. One of the newer ones that's been around, and I do use it, especially when traveling and so forth, is Brave. Brave is very much about privacy and isolation of data and the ability to hide information that's so easily offered on the other browsers. We're very familiar with an older one, DuckDuckGo. That's become popular because of its privacy. It's cookie crunching in the sense that it doesn't allow ads to follow you. So you have a more autonomous way of going around and looking and discovering things without now having all of this influx of unrequested connectivity of cookies that you accumulated. And now they're trying to lure you into the dialogue because they're tracking you in that sense. Then there's some ones that are coming. Ladybird is one that's coming up this space from the founder of GitHub. Is putting this together. The unique reason why I'm bringing this one up is this was being built from scratch. What I mean by scratch is it's not a Chrome-based one, it's not a Linux-based one. They're building their own code that is not being adopted from another platform type. Immensely difficult to do. It's like building a language for a population and then teaching the population. It's pretty profound that they're doing this. But talk about ability to keep it separate from everybody else. That's pretty good. The beta for that's supposed to start rolling out in early 26. We'll see how that goes. There's another one that's new. It's out. It's in a small beta, and that is Vivaldi. This one's Chrome-based in the sense that that's the founding part of how it's built. But it has a lot more of the privacy, disconnecting trackabilities. It's very similar to DuckDuckGo in that sense. DuckDuckGo is based on Linux. Vivaldi's based on Chrome. So that's kind of your ecosystem of privacy browsers. We'll get to the AI component with them in just a second. But now we're talking about what just happened. So let me tell you what has been out there up until this last week. We know of certain chatbots, generative AI, like Perplexity, ChatGPT. We know them by their names, as much as we know about Claude and all these other engines of this. Well, Perplexity had been running on their expensive $200 a month platform access or account access, a browser called Comet. And it's a chatbox driven thing, but it is a browser, which means you'll get browser results as you look. You're talking with the AI, typing. You can talk, but typing. And it is summarizing now. It's looking at sites, not just at face value of here's the site, but also here's what's the most critical or discovered information about the site. It's beginning to summarize. It will show. It will look for sites based on contextual discovery, and it won't bring you a list of sites. It'll bring you to a site. That this past week went from being a very expensive option to have with Perplexity to you can join the beta. And I joined thinking I was going to wait because it says you have to sign up for it. And literally as soon as I got out of the screen, I had my welcome in my email. It's like, well, thank you very much. I'll do it. And I've been playing with it, seeing how it works. The other one that I got this past week, that ChatGPT, and that's the big news that really was the inspiration of our topic today, was ChatGPT released its new AI-powered browser with ChatGPT 5.0, I think, and that is Atlas. And same thing, it's a chat-driven box that operates very similar to what Comet does. It brings you to a site. It will summarize things. It'll collectively look for things. It'll accumulate things and put them into the results that it's giving you. So it'll not only refer to and use websites, but it'll also tell you more about how that is interplayed with something else. And I'm not trying to be vague by how I'm saying this. Is you're going to discover this on your own, but it's about rethinking how we're using browsers, which is why I'm sounding so vague and waving my hands so much. Before I lose track of all the sites, there's one other one that's out there based on Opera, and that's called Neon, and it's been out there. More of a web browser with AI augmentation. So Opera-based, it's called Neon. A lot more than just what we're seeing now in the typical SERP browsers where there's an AI answer surrounded by other more traditional things. Opera's Neon's similar to that, but it has more AI and supplemental additional information that's much smaller in proportion to the AI portion of it. But all of this goes to how we're going to use the browsers differently. So let's take Chrome. In contrast to Comet or Atlas, Chrome, we usually, because we have a Google Gmail account, we have access to it in relationship to when we're browsing. We have things like, we get information in our Gmail because we were on Chrome things. We have lots of different plugins and community infrastructure for Chrome that allows us to have the other functionalities in Chrome. We can do tasks with it. We can look at our calendar with it. We can do all these functionalities like that. And in the ecosystem of Google, Chrome is the browser that you use and is the default of what gets functioning for your Gmail, your connectivities for your meetings, for your calendar, your task lists. All those tools that we tend to use with Google are all within the infrastructure of the ecosystem. Comet and Atlas are also like that. So when you sign up for Comet or Atlas, it will go through the same process of wanting to connect to things like, let me connect to your current browser, Chrome, Safari, whatever, okay, and get all your bookmarks. Also, let me connect to your Chrome or your Safari for all of your passwords. Let me go over and connect to your calendars. Now, the value proposition that they're putting into this is that they can summarize your emails, organize your emails, prioritize your emails, help you respond to the emails, see what your schedule is, automatically adapt what you're asking and looking for and telling you, well, you have availability on Friday. It begins to collaborate with you. On the current ecosystems of Google and Apple and so forth, you pretty much manually have to go over, and if you see something and you want to go over and look, yes, if you're looking at an invitation that somebody sent you in Chrome, it will show up your calendar to the side if you use Google Calendars, and it'll show you where it lands compared to your other schedules, if there's a conflict or not, or what it's surrounding and so forth. Browsers will be doing that as well, but it'll also help you the next step by saying, do you want to make this the priority, and do you want me to send an email to the current ones asking if you can change the time or can we cancel? It takes care of that for you. If you wanted to have all your passwords, then now you can tell it, okay, I want to open up a sequence of things I want to do, and or you into routine, saying, all right, start my morning routine, and it will open up with the credentials you've given it, what you've told it you would normally open up for what you need it for. Or now, what's even more interesting is with them, if you need access to a website to have the question you're putting to your browser answered, it will go do that because it has that. The convenience factor is there. And I was mentioning this with a friend of mine as we're talking through it. We as a society are like water. Path of least resistance. We'll go that way. And we're inherently lazy. We have so many things we're doing in our lives that anything that creates efficiencies for us that doesn't require more work to produce them, we're all for. So now all of a sudden you're telling me that my browser, connected to what I'm allowing it to connect to, can in fact handle a lot of the things I want done simply by telling it. Talking to it is a very real function to this. So let's give some real world examples of why we're talking about this in hospitality marketing. This isn't a tech show just to tell you what's going on with AI or browsers. It's about how is this impacting our hospitality marketing. Now, as we've talked on the show before, there is a growing percentage of our traffic to our website that is correlated to generative AI and long language modeling discoveries. They're using our content and the traffic coming to our website because of that, or traffic being driven to our content, to our website because of our content, is from that side. The SEO, as much as people want to, hey, look, SEO is sexy again, everything, it's true. SEO is very important because that's what AI cuts its teeth on to understand us. But AI doesn't treat our data the same way search engines treat our data. Key element to this, and I use this as an analogy to it all the time. If I'm looking for a pipe fitting, I'll go to a big box store, okay? And I walk up to the door and they say, what can I help you with? So I'm looking for pipe fitting. Well, we have a whole store here, go find it. That's what usually search engine is. So a search engine will go in, they'll go down every row, check every shelf, and figure out what the whole place is like, and then assign what they think the store is valuable for. Yes, they have pipe fittings, but they also have 1,000 other things. So out of the scale of things, are they the authority on pipe fittings? No, they have content about pipe fittings, but they may not be the authority compared to the little store next door that just handles pipe fittings. That's search engines as we do it. AI, it ranks also, but what it'll do is AI will go in to the big box store looking for a pipe fitting, and it'll go and say, hey, I'm looking for this pipe fitting. And the AI will go to aisle 11, row 2, and there's pipe fittings. And they'll get what they need to go back and answer or fix the problem. That's what it's for. Sure, there's a bunch of other stuff there, but they only needed the information about the pipe fitting. So it's not about being searched, it's about being found. And that's the difference of how this is being used now. Our information is being discovered by AI. And that indexing, that ranking, sure, they may have found this once for the pipe fitting, but then the next time they went for look for pipe fittings, they may have found a better pipe fitting place. And that place does technically rank better because it has more answers with pipe fittings than we had answers for pipe fittings. Maybe I lost you on the analogy, but you get the sense of this. So now AI-powered browsers are doing those things. They're not ranking and sorting as much by having to look collectively at everything. They're ranking and sorting based on the success of what they were asked to do. And as they get more familiar with our personal interests, they get more abbreviated with what they need to worry about finding as to the best of things that gives us the final answer. So in these AI browsers, it is not hard. And this is giving you an example of what I did with one of them, Comet to be exact. I went over and said, okay, Comet, I would like you to make a Google map that I can download to my phone that I'm going to go to Paris, and I love croissants, and I'm going to be staying in the Latin Quarter, and I want a nice walking tour that will take about 2 to 3 hours in duration, but find the best croissant shops in the Latin Quarter for me to visit, and send me the link to the Google Maps so I have it on my phone, or just put it on my phone actually. And I said also make sure you highlight why each one's interesting or what not to miss there, and what would be the best thing to order. Lo and behold, I get a link that's on my phone in my Google Maps that has the walking tour. But here's the real fun part of that is the query back was, where do you want me to start the walk? Is there a hotel? Is there a starting point? So if I'm going to phrase this like, hey, I'm going to go to the Fort Myers Beach this weekend, and I want to do a bar hop. I want to from 4 o'clock. I want to catch happy hours until 8 o'clock. Um, what's the best hotel to start from that's closest to the best places to do that? All of a sudden, you have AI and making a map, maybe um, making that itinerary. Now, we all know we've been playing with AI about making travel plans, and as we say, genie in the bottle. How you ask the question is as important as to what you're wanting the question to answer. Because if you don't ask it correctly, you'll never get to the point of what it was helpful for. So, same too with these browsers. But what happens is, as you teach the browser, the AI, what you ask about, very quickly, just like browsers now with our cookie history, AI browsers will remember that when I ask for a certain trip that I like Chinese food compared to Indian food, um, that if I say I'm on a business trip, they know that I don't have to worry about the room type I'm looking for, as in so much as is the location of where I'm saying I have to be close by. And they know to recommend in a, hey, I got a nap after the second afternoon of my trip this weekend. I have about 4 hours off. What are some things I shouldn't miss that's within walking distance of 15 minutes from the hotel XYZ that I'm at that I would enjoy, and places that I can grab a good lunch? Before, I may have had to tell it, look for the best restaurants and then hold it down to a Chinese restaurant. But now the AI browser knows I already have that as a preference. It might clarify it, which it did actually when I did similar to this with ChatGPT on Atlas, because it already knew, because I had done a lot of simulations as to making travel plans, that it said, do you want me to look for Chinese restaurants, or do you want to change your preference of what restaurants you want as just the best restaurants that are rated? It asked me, and I said, no, whatever's the best in that radius. And then it came back, do you want me to make a walking map for you? Yes, I do. Make it in Google Maps and send it to my phone. And it did. And now I have what I needed without doing the, okay, let's look at Google Maps and see what restaurants pop up, and let's look at Yelp and see what's there and what are the ratings. Let's look at TripAdvisor, whatever else we use for travel, because it's time consuming. We're looking for information, and we've been forced in our life of this progressive usage of the internet that we have limitations as to how we do it. We have to get queries out there. We have to put up with the people that are trying to get in front of us by paying to do so. We have to go through the clutter of websites that have rankings based on who paid them compared to organic value of ones that showed up well, against the bias of those that have skewed their data to try to show up for that. And now we have AI that's trying to sort through all that mess as well, but doing it under the predications of knowing our preferences over the history that we develop with them. Why all of this is important to us as marketers is that we have to fundamentally look at how we're creating our content that's going to be discovered and used by long language models and generative AI. And we see lots of this. I was on a BWG call today talking about OTAs and AI and so forth, and this conversation came up about how to do best with what you're doing. This is a scary second generation time. Most industries don't get a second chance at fixing something. We're being given a second chance to fix something. Let me explain what I mean by this. Back in 2000, 2001, when internet was beginning to get used more and more, and at the time it represented maybe 2 to 4% of actual business to our hotels, getting found on the websites or getting found on the internet was literally a matter of how you were found. Search engine optimization was at its infancy at that point. People were still hiding white letters of words behind white backgrounds so that they could stack keywords to show up for those words. That kind of world. Actually, that was even later. It was even rudimentary than that. It was even more caveman than that. And what happened was you had these online travel agencies, these intermediaries. Lodging.com, I remember them. Had to manually put in your inventory, manually put in your rates, sold what you posted, had to put more in. Very old systems back in the day. Anyways, they learned that these search engines were beginning to put ads to the right-hand side. They weren't even putting it in the right column, the left rail. This was ads that went off on the side, little boxy ads that you look for this. This is all the results we showed with organic, but here's some paid placements of saying, we want to let you know that I know you're looking for this stuff, but we also should be looked at as well, those ads. And they spent more money than a hotel was willing to spend at that time. Brands didn't even do this stuff. And they got good at it. And then they started reaching out to hotels through the hotel book. Remember the big fat book that you had to, if you weren't listed in the hotel book, you weren't a hotel. But this is how far back, if people old enough to remember. Just old. Anyways, and so you started giving them inventory. Like, hey, if you're going to spend the money to be in front of people, they can't find me because I don't have enough savvy of how to do this. So I'll pay you to sell my hotel. And then 9/11 happened, everything, and then everybody doesn't know what to do for business because nobody's driving down the roads and nobody's seeing your magazine ads and all this other stuff. So they started dumping inventory on the OTAs, and they took over our market. And now we're in this engagement with them that we have this mutual need. Okay, we're their products in a sense. And we lost that window of control. We never, even when we had to try to get it back in 2008, first thing we did was go run back to the OTAs and dump inventory on them again. And we swear we weren't going to do it again, but COVID happened and we dumped inventory on them again. So no, we didn't fix that. Not being bitter. But now here we are with AI. And AI scares OTAs a lot because now we as businesses can once again deal directly with our guests. We can talk directly with our guests. The guests can directly find us. We don't need the OTAs. And you say, well, the OTAs have all this extra data. They have all these things about us, so forth and so on. Sure. But also with that comes the baggage that people are aware that the #1 hotel on TripAdvisor isn't necessarily the #1 hotel. That's just the one that paid to be #1. That lack of authenticity compared to, quote, an unbiased AI that simply says, I want a beachfront room on this weekend that has 2 double beds and is less than $150 and it's rated 5 stars or it has good reviews, and AI comes back with an answer that has a little bit more authenticity to it than going onto an OTA and seeing what they say is the best place to stay. So OTAs are doing what they do best, and that is faster, bigger, better than any of us. They're throwing a lot of money and a lot of effort to commoditize their value as a single entity of authority that people just should go to. Like, you know what? Don't leave it to how you ask AI. Come to a specialist. Remember the old travel agent models? Like, sure, you can book your own flight, but do you want to? You know, you don't know the secret codes of the airlines. You don't know the secret ways of getting a good price. You don't know the things to do. And then if something goes wrong, you have nobody to call, even back when there was somebody to call. So travel agents were a valuable commodity because they were an authority. They had inside track. They had phone numbers we didn't have on a Rolodex to talk to airlines about fixing a problem I'm having while I'm traveling. Okay. So they're trying to put themselves in that same role now. Like, you want to use our AI. We're going to tell you things not to miss, things to go to, places to stay, places to eat, things to do, because that's what we do. We're good at it. It's no longer just about offering inventory availability, which has been the bread and butter model. They went off the consumer model a long time ago. They used to be a customer review platform that was supposed to help you with your travel to an OTA. Expedia, same thing. Hotels, same thing. They're there to say, hey, we know all the hotels in the market. You don't have to find them. We know all of them. And we're going to give you the same rate that they could give you. So why go there and find out there? We'll tell you everything honestly about the hotel. Not true, but that's their role. So right now they're in their boots quivering because now they have to figure out how to become valuable in the way that they were valuable before AI. Back valuable when we as hoteliers kept giving them inventory every time we got spooked. And they're hoping that our industry doesn't say, we have another chance to do better at this. And they're trying to do everything to tell the consumer, you don't want to deal with the hotels directly. You want to deal with us because we give you more information. And in all honesty, if you let them do that, they will. And if you don't do better for yourself now, then you'll never quite get it back, because traffic to websites it's a gloom and doom conversation where people are saying that in a very short period of time in the future, our traffic to our website will go down by half because the usage of our website will be more commoditized of content than it is user experience. It's not that we won't have users, but the value of our content on our website and how actively we keep engaged with all the variations of interest of our product is more important than the actual viewership of our website. Our whole paradigm of how we look at our analytics is about to is shifting. It's not about to shift, it is shifting. And for that reason, we as marketers now need to get really good at making sure that we have every opportunity. And the really cool part of this is, and this was even asked to me the question today on the call, I've been asked of this before, well, how do you modify your paid campaign budgets? This whole strategy is about literally reducing your budget because most of what you need to do is about content development, and the exercising of the value of that content for the generative AI and the long language models to find you. It's not about how much more money you can spend. Generative AI and long language models will, in fact, find the content they need. Paid content has its value relationships to organic content in different ways based on frequency, value, and shareabilities and what have you. But it's the usable value content that can be authenticated through the tiering process of how AI values the content. We know that there are certain sources that AI uses as a base reference to things. And then there's a layer of other data sources that are used in contrast to those things. Then there's a layer of resources that are used for validation of those things. And then there's a layer of resources that go to functionality, frequency, and value of other usages of that data. And eventually that all happens in microseconds to give back the answer that the AI feels it should want to give you for your response. And now as a browser, that's much more broad and interactive than just a chatbot on an AI platform like ChatGPT and Perplexity. You're now dealing with a browser that is accumulating and defining and reorganizing and summarizing for efficiencies what it's showing you based on what you're engaging it with. Remember, it's not longer about being found. It's not. That's what search engine optimization is about, being found. I need to show. I need to be in the results. I need to be on page 1. I need to be in the top 4. All this. I got to be found. It's no longer about just being found. That's still important, but it's not just it alone anymore. It's also about being chosen out of that list. We're not being presented all the variations. We're being presented the most plausible value answer that the AI can generate for us. I've had this discussion many times about the AI value. Think of it this way. In traditional search, visibility meant appearing in a ranked list of links. Okay, here's the organics. This is the best one, second best one, third best one, fourth best one, on and on and on. In AI search, ranking, it still happens, but it is less about the ordering, okay, of entire pages of data, okay, and more about which pieces of content earn a place in the final answer. It's not about your entirety of value. It's about your individual value to apply to the answer it's being sought to answer, to pursue. That's a very big differentiation as to how well we can show up for what we are. So when I say the AI browsers are coming, the AI browsers are coming, or AI-powered browsers would be a better way of saying it, it's because it's going to begin to change how people are using our content. And for that reason, we need to make sure that I lost the train of thought to be the point that I wanted to make. We need to make sure that our content stays specific to what we want it to represent. We're not trying to cast a wide net. We're trying to make sure we're very specifically valued for the things that we want to identify for. I was trying to describe the fact that when you are in a search results environment or SEO environment, you're looking for collective value. You're looking for the totality of your data to represent the authenticity of your data to be discovered by those out of a sequence of options. In AI, the more specific you can answer to the interest. I'm traveling with my family. I want a beach view this weekend within 150 miles, which you already know roughly the beaches that would include. I can bring my family of 4 with, and that has a spa and is pet friendly. That just saved you a whole lot of search, because not everything is indexed to show you whether it's pet friendly and whether it has a beach view room available and everything else like this. And AI goes and fetches them. We're already seeing that activity in the chats themselves. Now you're seeing it in the browser with content value being brought in and referral value being shown in a way that we're not used to it just being in a chat browser. We're now a actual legitimate AI powered browser, which is going to change how we interact. Because now if you start talking about the talkative component, the audible component, where you can just dialogue through with what you're looking for, and if you've connected it to the resources that you've already connected your current browsers like Chrome and Safari to, now it can go open up your websites that have zero authentication requirement to it, passwords and so forth. If you eventually let it have its paid platforms that you use, you can simply tell it to fulfill the transaction. I think there's gateways that still have to go in place for that, for us to feel a little bit better about using those. But we're going in that direction. And I feel very much that by the end of this year, this is going to turn into a pervasive transition of how people are interacting with the need of our industry, what they're looking for. They're going to get more, it's cognitive, I'm looking for the word, it's cognitive understanding that AI has, but it's the way you're asking. Oh, AI, I need a vacation. I want to get away for a few days, thinking about something relaxing, not too far, something I can drive to. Probably want to, not spend more than X hundreds of dollars. What are some options I have? It's going to go look. And it's going to give you that kind of context. It might ask you for clarifications. It might give you single options that you want to change, but it's going to be much more interactive like that. It's going to understand how to interpret your request, not how specific you are about your request, which is a fundamental thing we're dealing with AI right now, is we have to be very specific about how we're making our queries to get the results that's most useful for us. As we get better at shorthand with it, and it gets better with us and having a history with us as an individual user, that acceleration of opportunity, what AI can do for us, means that if we weren't in a inclusion with them early, we won't be in a future tense if we're not careful. Well, I think I've beaten the soapbox enough on this idea. I do want to lay this down as a marker of saying this happened then, because I do think that this change, even if it's not in its current iteration for long, is a point of pivot, of a transition as to how we engage with the internet, how we engage with the data that is cumulatively on the internet, and how it will affect our ability to market our industry in a way that is useful to the user, much more personal for the user, really, that benefits our businesses so that we're not lost in the obscurity of not having to been part of the answer that AI provides the user that it's been asked. So, as always, you can catch the show on reruns, as I said, 11:30 a.m. Wednesday mornings, Sydney, Australian time, London time for our APAC in EU and Mideast friends, respectively. We do recast and put it up posted-wise with 11 languages translated for our largest audiences: the Philippines, Japan, South Korea, India for Hindu, we, of course, French, English, German, Spanish, Italian, Chinese. We have Chinese as well. It goes on and off, depends upon how much people from Hong Kong, Shanghai tend to watch the show. Get comments from it as well. And with Malay, we've gone back and forth with Malay a few times. Like I said, we based it on highest volume of audiences as to which languages we translate over on our subtitles. For all reruns of the show, including this one, you can always find it at hospitalitychannel.tv. It's the I Love Lucy of ours. I put in 2 new on-demand channels on Hospitality Channel TV. The one we run all the time is linear. So the new show always goes on at 1 o'clock every day. The older shows get bumped chronologically down. So the older shows tend to run in the evenings and the newer shows tend to run in the early afternoon. I try to, in the mornings, I tend to just keep them in older shows because everyone's busy in the afternoon. Sometimes we catch people for lunch. Sometimes they have a gap point they want to listen to or watch the show. They go to hospitalitychannel.tv. But now I have 2 on-demands. I have early 2025 on-demand and late 2025 on-demand. Because if we do the show every week, have been for 11 years now. So there is a boat ton of shows, obviously 533 of them, and including all of our audio podcasts that we have. So there's a lot of variety on it. You can look up shows always based on data broadcast and the hosts on it, all the variety of hosts that we have on the show. and the topics, obviously, as they're categorized, tagged really, as to the topics that were on the show. Podcast wise, we have podcasts that broadcast out to 39 countries. We also have our radio station that not only is our podcast on the radio station and our show, audibly, but there is a host of other incredibly good podcasters for our industry. Tim Peter is a good example that we run all their shows podcast wise and on the radio station, hospitalityradio.com. And you can catch the shows whenever the time of day that it is. We have sales day, you know, sometimes I'm doing feature days, but usually we run marketing podcasts and then we'll run that, and then we'll do sales podcasts, then we'll do operations podcasts, we'll do meta search podcasts as they run through, reputation podcasts. We run this cycle of revenue management podcast, and they run through this chronological cycle each day. So you can catch all of those as we do, and the new shows get inserted into the categories of them as they roll out from all the people that produce them. A lot of explanations for you. Sorry. Anyway, if you are a hospitality marketer and wish to join our community, it's a closed door community. It's not on social platforms like Facebook or anything like this. It's on our own. It's on a platform we use called Heartbeat. Go to hospitalitymarketing.club, put your email in. I send you a quiz to validate that you are really a hospitality marketer, not somebody that's, we keep it as a peer group, people doing hospitality marketing. That is their job, that is profession to do. And we have different tier levels of engagement based upon how new you are at it or how many things you're responsible for, how many properties and everything else like that. So you have a good peer group that you feel good that you're balancing out rather than being the smartest person in the room or the weakest room in the room. We try to keep it where you can join the group that is you're most comfortable with at a peer level. When you feel like you want to change categories or peer groups, you simply look at categories that you're interested in listening to and discovering. And if you feeling that's where you want to go, you can join that one as well. It's a lot of fun. We get a lot of great dialogue from it. If you have any questions, comments, feedbacks, anything like this, you can always reach me via email. I answer every email about the show and the podcast and the club at lauren@hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com. That's my business. Been doing now for many, many years, 11, 12 years. Anyways, long time. Been in the industry for 40 years. I had to say that on that call with BWG today. It's like, yeah, I've been doing this for over 40 years. I'm like, actually, it's longer than that, but that's just a safer number to pick. So when I talk about the late 90s, I was there. Anyways, what am I missing? Radio station. I think I hit everything for it. And if you want to do an audio to me, sending an audio, you can go to hdm.news/talkback, and you can leave me an audio response, comment, or whatever, and tell me if I have the authority to use it or in the show. If you just want to talk to me, I always have a question of the week I put out there, see what people say about it, kind of like a little feedback place. Anyways, lots of fun things you can join us with. And if you have any suggestions about joining the show or having the show or whatever, I always listen to those as well. So until next week, my name is Lauren Gray. I thank you for the privilege of your time and look forward to talking to you next week.